Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We're so happy to have Hafiz Dr. Sayyad Mekic speaking to us today about the intersection between faith and university. Imam Mekic is the first Imam of our very own Cambridge Central Mosque. Some of you may remember that we had the honor to hear from him during Freshers Week. Now, with exams coming up, I know a lot of us will be busy cramming. So thank you for taking the time out to hopefully take some comfort, some advice in the midst of all that stress. There will be plenty of time for questions, so please submit them to the Menti. The link is in the chat throughout, and inshallah we'll get to them by the end. And this is a completely open space to discuss any challenges you have and hopefully get some advice from Imam as well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to him.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een wa ba'd. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, I pray you have all had a joyous Eid, In Sha Allah, and a truly spiritual month of Ramadan. And of course, thank you for inviting me for this talk. Alhamdulillah, as believers in Allah Almighty, in our Lord, in our Creator, in our Cherisher, as devoted Muslims, we constantly draw energy and inspiration from our noble religion of Islam and its rich tradition, its rich scholarship. The fact that the very first revelations of the Holy Quran were read in the name of your Lord, who created man from a clot of blood and who taught man pen, can't be ignored. In other words, reading and writing really that have been emphasized in this very first revelation that Allah sent to us through his Prophet Muhammad to the last of all nations speaks for itself. Islam indeed is the religion of book and pen, reading and writing, studying, learning, developing yourself perpetually, eternally. From the day you were born, when you had no knowledge at all. The Quran clearly says, and we made you come out of the wombs of your mothers without knowing anything, not knowing anything. Zero knowledge, didn't know what you would be called, didn't know anything. From that moment until we depart this worldly life, we are all in some kind of college or school or madrasa, and we are constantly learning and developing, self-development. And the stage that you are at now, I believe most of you on this call are undergraduates. Of course, I remember my days as an undergrad. Maybe you can say it is quite hectic and stressful. We don't like May and June, the end of May and early June, because that's the tough exams time. But believe me, later on, once you graduate, and later on in your professional careers, in your lives, you will actually recall those days and months and years at Cambridge University or wherever you were, studying for your undergraduates and postgraduate studies as maybe the best time of your life, the most memorable time, because you felt that you were truly focused on the task in your hands, what you were doing, not being too much distracted. But anyhow, living in this modern, postmodern society, we indeed can easily get distracted by many things. And obviously, what the turmoil, what's going on now in the world, you know, the current pandemic, the global crisis, a conflict here and there, of course, it affects us all without saying, whatever stage of our life, even a child like my own children, a couple of them quite young, me looking at them growing now with all this face covering and everything, of course, I feel sorry for my own children. But then seeing my other two teenagers as well going to what they have to go through in their GCSEs, I feel sorry again. And then seeing university students nowadays who are not able to gather as they would like to, again, I feel sorry for you, because I remember my days, I didn't have that. But on the other hand, I think to myself and say, but those lot, you right now, being distracted by so many things, and now certain things being taken away from you. The real question is, were they really essential? Actually, you got a lot of time to contemplate, to organize yourself, and maybe to excel in your own studies, to do much better. So indeed, our religion and the Holy Quran itself, of course, the whole Islamic tradition is truly inspiring for anyone to become a great scholar, not just a learned person and a graduate, okay, let's say a master's degree in something, and then you'll end having a good job. That's not all. Islam actually gives us enough inspiration. There are far too many traditions and stories in our sacred books, you can say, or sacred sources, and in our tradition as a whole, to inspire each and every one of us to become the greats, to become great scholars in whatever field we like and we choose to excel. So there is no doubt this link between our religion and learning and studying is quite clear and obvious. Even though we know that our beloved Prophet ﷺ did not know how to read and write because of the age, the time in which he lived, and the context in which he found himself, we know when we study his life, his biography, that he did everything he could, basically, to open up as many centers of learning as possible. Just like, for example, his gesture to promise people who were captured, let's say, in a military conflict, in a battlefield. The fact that they were literate, they could read and write, them passing on that knowledge, that skill to some of the Muslims will be enough of a ransom for them to be freed. And then, of course, later on, he clearly instructed his companions to write down the Holy Quran, to scribe it down. And he gave a special status to those people who knew how to write things down. And he wasn't only writing down the Quran. There were many important documents or things that the Prophet ﷺ instructed his companions to write down, to draft, to compose, to make, and some of which until this day stand out as great constitutions or great pieces of work, which really means that he wanted this ummah, this nation of ours, to be the ummah, the lettered ummah. If he was known in the Quran or described in the Quran as the unlettered prophet, he wanted exactly the opposite to each and every one of us who followed his path, his ways. So he wanted us to be the best of the nations, the exemplary nation in every sense. So indeed, we say that our tradition, especially our Prophet ﷺ, they inspire each and every one of us to use this huge favor, this bounty that Allah granted us, the bounty of intellect, brain, reasoning, this ability to learn and to develop. To use it, you can say the utmost, to the utmost limit, the utmost level. And I know for a fact, all of you who have been enrolled here at Cambridge University, studying whatever faculty or if it's called department, school, whether you're doing medicine or history, reading, English, literature, whatever you are doing for your degree, I know this university, In Sha Allah ta'ala, will make sure that they will take the most out of you and they will make you work hard. Because I remember my days, I did my postgraduate studies at Divinity faculty, I did my undergraduate studies in Wales. And I remember when I came here, the amount of reading that I had to do in, obviously, postgraduate studies probably is a different level, higher level. But the amount of reading that I had to do here, and then the amount of assignments that I had to write, essays, it was like, is it really possible to do that within 9 months, 1 academic year or 2? But in the end, I did it. Maybe, yes, a lot of my assignments ended up being in bins, not published, and I've never thought of publishing or revisiting that and rewriting them. That's beyond the point. The main point is that I actually got a really good habit of making books my best friends. And pen, or let's say nowadays you type on the computer, even I was doing it on the laptop, but not as much. Maybe in my days we used pens more. I don't know. But I remember that I realized one thing, and if that was the only thing I learned from Cambridge University, is to value knowledge. And I realized that all of my lecturers, all the tutors at the university, whatever school, right, whatever faculty, they genuinely believed in what they were teaching us, what they were telling us, lecturing about. And they were standing there for the truth, the actual knowledge, that they inherited or deduced from the books, or inherited from their own teachers, and so on and so forth. So from that point of view, you are obviously privileged society, you can say, privileged group of people who are living this phase of your life where, as I told you, you are much less burdened than with certain things that you will be later on in your life when you have your own families and develop your professional careers. And on top of everything, you are now, instructed by people who know how to take the most out of you, basically utilize your powers, your imagination, your skills, your abilities to the utmost level, the highest level possible. And on top of everything, of course, you also find yourself, living and studying at one of the most prestigious, if not the most famous, you can say center or university center of knowledge or learning at Cambridge University. So that in itself is very important for you and should serve as a huge, mighty source of inspiration to each and every one of you. On one hand, you are privileged. On the other hand, you are pushed to work really hard. But in the end, you won't regret your time that you spent here at Cambridge University, at your college, at your school. You will, in fact, In Sha Allah ta'ala, we don't want to encourage people to become arrogant, no, or proud, but you will be actually pleased with this phase of your life and proud for your achievements. And there's nothing wrong in that Islamically. Not only that, you will, In Sha Allah ta'ala, contribute. You will add your own personal contribution to the overall knowledge, we say, knowledge in general, and development in general as well. So that's really exactly what the student's life is all about. It's about books and pens, or let's say nowadays we have Microsoft Teams and Zoom and whatever you have, different softwares. But a student's life really is all about reading and writing, about learning, studying, learning and producing some kind of knowledge that will benefit you as a person, you will develop, and it will also benefit anyone else who comes across that piece of information. So indeed, learning new information and developing new skills, mastering some subject, but also sitting exams to make sure that our revisions, our studies, were sufficient, proper, and timely, is a wonderful thing, I have to say to you. It's a really beneficial and noble thing to do. It's something the Quran actually places as the highest possible thing to do. The Quran clearly asks this question. It's a very good question. Do we really think that those who are learning, who are knowledgeable, who know, are equal with those who are not learning, who are not keen to learn, not interested in any academic study, in any classes or courses, or have no knowledge? Indeed, they are not equal, and they never will be equal. So from that point of view, of course, we look at the example of our Prophet ﷺ, him being the human being like ourselves. And even though, like I said, in olden days, they didn't graduate, they didn't have universities like we have nowadays. degrees and points and undergraduate, postgraduate studies, MPhils, research, this, research that, deadline, this peer-reviewed journal, that journal, this collection, this newsletter. They didn't have that. But I know when I read my Islamic tradition, when I studied my Prophet's life, and when I also looked at the lives of some of his companions, I realized one thing. All of his Sahaba, those companions of our beloved Prophet that were close to him, they basically all graduated with first. You might be kidding at me, but they all graduated with first class from the highest and toughest university, the school called Madrasa al-Muhammadiyya. And I'm telling you, there are so many Muslim saints who have written nice, lovely qasidas, poems, lines, telling us that those are khiriju Muhammadin. They are the graduates of the Prophet Muhammad's school and tutelage or tutoring. And they served as the role models and like shining stars to all of us. So now we are where we are. Cambridge University, as you know, is older than 700 years ago. But what I'm talking about is more than 1,500 years ago. Okay? So we have every reason to believe as Muslims that the very first major centers of learning, let's say universities, because university means a collection of different schools, departments, okay? A number of highly intellectual people, knowledgeable people who are liaising with one another and in a sync, systematically, coherently, they are trying to pass on whatever skills and knowledge they have to another huge bunch of people. That's what the universities are all about. This whole concept, I fully believe, was crafted, created by Muslims, early Muslims. And I'll give you just one proof for it, one evidence. If you think about it, how many major Islamic sciences there are there? How many major Islamic sciences are there? The science of hadith. Okay, I want you to specialize in medicine today. Even medicine is grown too big. I want some of you to be engineers. I also want some of you to be lawyers. I want some of you to be poets. Some of you to be historians. Some of you economists, okay? But how vast is the science of hadith, do you actually know? Did you ever think about it? How many subsections, like the faculty of hadith has department of rijal, just studying narrators, their biographies. Department of hadith has textual studies of hadith, separate department. And the same goes with Quran, tafsir, ulum al-Quran, the sciences of Quran, tafsir. There were far too many concrete major sciences that grew out of the Quran itself and the sayings of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, so that they could open a big university just studying the Islamic sacred knowledge. But they realized the Holy Quran didn't only mention prayers, didn't only mention fasting, which we did a little while ago. The Quran did not mention only intercession and things that belong to the metaphysical world. The Quran also mentioned plants, water, the universe, the vastness of space, time in itself. Actually, the Quran mentioned calculations. The Quran mentioned numbers which are high, 1,000, 50,000, 70, so on and so forth. The Quran even said, look at the moon and the sun, that it will help you to calculate your time. Calendar came about. So the Quran basically mentioned different animals and their purpose and everything that exists, like the stars. The Quran mentions so that you may guide yourself by them. What is astronomy all about? Where did it come from? The compass. Who made the astrolabes, for example? All these things are mentioned in the Quran and in the sayings of our beloved Prophet ﷺ. So therefore, many other sciences, you say social sciences and fine arts, developed. And you can say again, the fine arts, calligraphy, geometry. Where did it come from? From the sacred tradition. And such a beautiful fine art is calligraphy and different styles of calligraphy and so on and so forth. So those are really all coming from nowhere else but the Quran and the sayings of our Prophet ﷺ, and his own attitude towards knowledge, towards sciences. Okay, so you and I, being, let's say, we believe that we are followers of this religion. You and I, we claim to belong to the ummah of that very Prophet I'm talking about. You and I claim that we belong to the Islamic tradition. In order to fulfill the legacy of our Prophet ﷺ, you and I have to do our very best in learning, in studying, in knowledge. You and I have to give ourselves a task, a concrete promise, a very firm, strong promise. Not only will I complete my studies, but I want to be best in my year. I want to do best. Even if all of us, we all have first in my year, I'm not really doing it because I want my name to be first on the list when they stuck it on the Senate House. That's not the aim that you have. That's not your intention, that so-and-so's name is first on every list that is going to be published by the Senate House. That's not the reason. The reason why you want to do so well is to master the subject matter, so that you apprehend it, that you understand it properly. You know what you are reading, what is it all about, and you actually later on know how to develop it. In fact, you want to excel, not above your teacher because you didn't like your tutor or your lecturer because they came across like haughty or like you felt like they were belittling you for whatever complex or inferiority complex that you had. No, because you even want to enhance the books that they wrote so that they also get the credit of paving the way for you. And this is how a proper Muslim thinks. Whenever he does a task, he wants to excel in it. And it's all in line with this beautiful saying of our beloved Prophet. He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, al-mu'minu idha amila amalan atqanahu. When a true believer embarks on a task, wants to do a job, he does it to perfection. Yeah, he accomplishes it in the best possible manner, in the best possible way. So we want to become the ummah, yeah, of a highly skilled people, highly learned people, rational people, nation that will contribute to, rather than take away from, the human civilization and progress that we know of, that we enjoy ourselves from nowadays. So we want to contribute rather than just live on it and take from it and benefit ourselves and not give anything back. So we have plenty, my dear brothers and sisters, dear students, plenty in our tradition to encourage us. Our Prophet ﷺ, just like the Quran, he also underlined another really important aspect to all of this. The concept of time itself. Yes, learned and ignorant will never be the same. We all know that. And we will work, the best we can, as hard as we can, to learn more and more and more and more and to become more knowledgeable. But all of that takes time. If you want to read, let's say on you all have reading list, isn't it? For all your modules. You have, let's say, mandatory reading, or your tutors or lecturers expect you that you have read all those articles that are on there and a few textbooks, but there's also recommended reading. And some lecturers at Cambridge University really are a little bit unrealistic, I have to say. So they give you a reading list, which is a few pages long, but all you have is a few months to read it. So we know if you want to add some things of your own to the list, and you say, like, you're studying literature, and you say, I'm going to read 20 novels this term, right? 20 novels. Well, to read 20 novels properly and to analyze them, it's going to take so much of your time, isn't it? I don't know, maybe there's some people are super fast readers. I wasn't one of them, I'm telling you, because I was so meticulous on everything I read. I want to understand what it means. So it always took me time to read one book and a few academic articles. And I liked later on reading articles, even though they are tough sometimes, just because they summarize something, whereas a book will always give you some detail which is useful but not always necessary when you compare it against the amount of time you actually have at your disposal. So the fact that the Quran makes an oath, wal asr, by the time, it's so important for us to be aware of this concept. You and I and everyone in the world has equal opportunity, equal amount of time, 24/7, not more, not less. And the Prophet ﷺ, he clearly told us, make use of your free time before you get busy. You won't have that time later on. Then you're going to regret it. He told us very clearly, organize your time. In fact, we are nothing but a composition of days and nights, hours. And every single hour in our lifetime matters. Of course it does. Because none of us can go back in time. No way. There'll be no tool. There's no knowledge that will ever, have like we watch those films, isn't it? What did they call them? Whatever they call them, science, something, fiction, whatever films. There's a genre. They press the button and he goes 700 years back and he's the same professor of physics. Oh, he developed this theory 700 years ago and then 200 years later, and now he's in the 21st century, whatever. That's in films, yes, but not in reality. So you and I all must realize we got the time that we have, just like now. The time is quickly going by while I'm talking, and I will be stopped soon because my time will be up. So in the same way, don't be ever depressed. Oh, I got 3 years a degree. Oh, 6 years medicine. Who is going to bear that? Mentally, I'll explode. I can do 2 years. A year 4, I'll contemplate. I might give up. No, believe me, 3 years for a degree and 6 years for medicine, or 6-7 years for a BA and an MA and a PhD will go just like this. You won't believe me, but I completed my PhD 2011. I never liked talking about myself, to be honest with you. But it's exactly 10 years ago. A decade ago, I completed my PhD. To me, it feels like, when was it? So recently. And I enrolled for my postgraduate studies at Cambridge 2005, 16 years ago. Can't believe it. And my undergraduate 21 years ago. That's true. It's reality. I can look at my kids. If I don't see it on my own self, when I look at the mirror, I can see on my own kids taller than me now. So basically, time is a very crucial thing. We have to get the better of it before it consumes us. Like they say, it's a sword, isn't it? With 2 edges. If you don't cut it, you don't sort it out, it will cut you. So time waits for no one. I've said this hundreds of times, probably several times this Ramadan. Those of you who came to Taraweeh, you must have heard me. But it's always useful to say it because it's true. Okay, it is true. So the Holy Quran and our Prophet ﷺ underlined the significance, the importance of time. Okay, organizing our timetables, managing ourselves, okay, and our tasks efficiently. This is very important for you now. You have, whatever number of exams. If you don't make a concrete plan and you know your abilities best, there are commitments that you can't delay, then you may have a wise policy. I'm not encouraging you to do this, but sometimes it may be a wise policy for a student. You have 7 exams. You know that you can leave one, retake it later on, or you can leave 1 or 2 and do them later on. You can still progress for the next year, or do it later on in the fall. All right. So sometimes it's good to do that. Assess your abilities properly and say, okay, I'm going to excel in these 5 and I'll do so well I get first. Then when I'm done with those, I'll do the other 2, rather than do all 7 and then fail a couple of them and not do so well in the others, or maybe do well in 1 or 2 and then fall in depression. So it's all about time management. And this is very, very important. And the Quran really says, like 5 daily prayers, the Quran says, كَانَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. So the Quran says, like, the 5 daily prayers, we know they were ordained during the miraculous night journey, the Prophet's ascension to the heavens. But the Quran says later on that those five daily prayers, they come at very prescribed times. And they are known. In fact, a believer who establishes reading or saying the 5 daily prayers, he will already master, I would say, got an MBA in time management, because he can organize his day every single day around the 5 daily prayers. And they come at prescribed times, and they actually force you, the Fajr forces you to get up early. Isha likewise comes a bit late in the summer, but in a way makes you think of your sleep, like in a way, or you got to wake up early in the morning, not to miss your Fajr, you will make sure you go to sleep early. And that basically works in line with what the Quran says, the alternation between the night and day. Like, there are certain advantages of doing certain things in daytime. Allah just made it like that. It's a rule of Allah. Allah wanted us. Allah created us. The way He did, our human body works much better. We can concentrate much better when there's so much daylight around us, sunlight. Not so much with your lamp on the desk. Yes, you can. Luckily, we live in age and time where we have electricity, LED and this and that, but maybe that's not natural to us. We won't do as well as if we read those same textbooks when we were fresh, after we woke up after 6 or 8 hours of sleep, or after exercise. And this is very important. Another aspect I wanted to mention in today's reminder. If you go to a therapist, they're going to ask you, I just want to know what is your diet like and your exercise life like? Do you actually exercise? Do you know that you were given legs by God to walk, not to lie down, or hands to move and do things, craft things, rather than just tie them like this and sleep, put them under your head? No, you were given all this, ears, eyes, everything, so that you make use of it and use it, exercise, right? So that will energize you. I know it will take some of your time, but it will boost you, to energize you, give you energy that you require, that you need to read later on. And you all know how a lovely thing to put one to sleep is reading a boring book, right? You take an article you don't enjoy very much, a wonderful pill, right? Fall asleep. We all of us have done it. But when we revisit what we have done and reanalyze it, we realize, but I was actually tired. I took this book that is a little bit heavy content and maybe a little bit boring. I find it boring, but I have to do it because it's one of the textbooks, not by my own volition, but my tutors. Oh, I'm going to read that one when I'm actually very well rested and in the beautiful gardens of my college, for example. Not in a dark room and a soft mattress, of course, and a nice cozy pillow, of course, you're going to fall asleep. But we need to think of all those things because they add to everything. And that's how it basically all works and ends up. So time is important. Make use of your time, organize your timetables. If I tell you some of my old teachers who didn't study in the modernized schools, traditional old schools, to be honest with you, they were the toughest on me, or me and my colleagues, when it came to time and time management and the amount of reading we had to do. They were not graduates from contemporary, modernized degrees. They studied with traditional ulama long time ago, right? Early 20th century. They were the toughest, and they made me aware to value my time, okay? Much more than you say amazingly structured degree at Divinity Faculty or Faculty of History or something like that. I actually learned much more from them than all these other subdivisions and part 2 of this paper, part 1, part 4, and this and that. Okay, so this is very important that we do our tasks efficiently and timely. This is a very important concept, which is Islamic. And I'll conclude my little reminder with this hadith of our beloved Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, it's a dua, but a very important dua in my opinion, and it matches all aspects of your student life, in my opinion. The Prophet said, Allahumma aghnini bil ilm, which means, oh Allah, enrich me with knowledge, empower me with knowledge. And we spoke about knowledge. Ghazali says there's beneficial and non-beneficial knowledge. I obviously know that all of you are studying a degree which is beneficial. Otherwise, why would you waste, 20,000 pounds and be indebted for studying something which is available for free of charge that you can do it later on? So, alhamdulillah, you all made the right choices. I'll never question them. You are, In Sha Allah ta'ala, enriching yourself. And the Quran beautifully said, Rabbi zidna ilma, enrich us. So by you graduating, I will benefit as well, as a Muslim and also as a non-Muslim. Anyone who lives, in your community will benefit from your knowledge. So he said, let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in other words, to constantly increase our knowledge for us, because we need it. And having more knowledge is never enough. And the general bottom line is, the Quran says, we were not given except a little bit of knowledge. I'm talking about the entire mankind, and everything that we know so far, all the theories that we know, all the equipment that humans have developed so far, all the technological advancements that we do have and enjoy nowadays, all of that together, the Quran says, is a little bit. Yeah, knowledge, a tiny, tiny bit of knowledge that is out there. The all-knowing Allah. So we pray to the all-knowing to enrich us more, to empower us more with useful, beneficial knowledge. That's first. And it's all about your degree, your studies. The next one, he said, وَزَيِّنِي بِالْحِلْمِ, which means adorn me with gentleness, forbearance, softness. Okay, al-hilm means forbearance. Like, part of forbearance is also patience, isn't it? Sabr. Hilm, in my opinion and my understanding, is actually a higher level of sabr. Yeah, it's patience and forbearance together. So we will become adorned, beautified. Like I bought this one on purpose today because of Eid and it's post-Ramadan talk that we have. So you can put some decorations. Yeah, decorate me, in other words. Extra decorations by doing everything you do. Increase me in knowledge. But I'm going to have an approach which is gentle, which is tolerant, which is moderate. This is what this dua means. وَزَيِّنِي بِالْحِلْمِ. And the Prophet actually even said elsewhere, he said, a true believer, just like I told you, he does his task, accomplishes it fully, properly, perfects it. He also said that a true believer always does everything with gentleness, like he's careful, with the utmost care. Okay, and he said, if we don't treat things like this, then we have done them injustice. Okay, so this notion, like doing everything, do it with gentleness, forbearance, is very important, and only then will you decorate your degree with the first, proper first. Then he said, وَأَكْرِمْنِي بِالتَّقْوَى, and ennoble me, honor me with piety, like make me a truly pious, a God-conscious person. And I can't, again, like, overemphasize this concept for you at your age, when you feel full of energy, physically moving with ease, find a lot of things attractive to you, and you yourself being very attractive, handsome, youthful. There's all kinds of attractions that are out there that can easily distract you, and also break your moral compass that you always need with you. It has to be like these glasses. The moral compass is this lens here. The first one through which I look at everything I look at. So you need to know that this is 100% in line with ilm, in gaining knowledge. How do we know? If you read the second last page of Surah Baqarah, what did Allah say? You probably know this ayah. He said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. If you become pious, you be pious, become God conscious, Allah will teach you. That's what the Quran said. It's conditional. In other words, Shafi would say, you cannot excel, really do well in knowledge, especially sacred knowledge, scholars say, if you are not pious, or if you don't do it for Allah's sake. Allah will prevent that kind of knowledge, penetrating deep in your heart or soul. So taqwa, the concept of taqwa is very crucial. Being God conscious, whatever you do, like I just said to you earlier on, you enrolled to your degree at Cambridge University, you selected Cambridge over Oxford, whatever, or over Harvard or London, an Imperial College, whatever, you chose this one. There is a privilege in it. Alhamdulillah. It's by Allah's grace, okay, and mercy that you are studying now at Cambridge University, and later on you can move on to Oxford or anywhere else you like because you're at the top university. But you can't do that for any other reason but for God's sake. Because if you are doing it to become so famous, like you want to become a Tony Blair too, or whatever, you know, famous Oxford graduates who became prime ministers or ministers of this and that, or CEOs of this and that, like Elon Musk, right? Or I don't know, Richard Hawkins, whatever. If you have that in your mind to become famous and important and rich, that is not Islamic. That's not what we are all about. That's not part of our Islamic identity. It's good, very good to hear Muslim scientists made up the vaccine for COVID-19 in Germany. 2 Muslims of Turkish origin. MashaAllah, very inspiring. But they couldn't have done that so that they have so much pride in their national pride. Turkish nation has done it. Or Hassan has done it. He's a Muslim. Or Ahmed, he's a Muslim name. He's done it. He's so proud of himself or herself. That is wrong, because whatever we do, we have to do it with the noble intention, the pure heart. Yeah, purity of intention, which means God consciousness. And if you do things that you do in your life with this approach, In Sha Allah ta'ala, you will never regret whatever you do. And even when you don't manage to do something, the fact that your intention was noble, you will be credited for it yet again. You will be rewarded for it. If not in this life, then in the next. And the last section is also important. وَجَمِّلْنِي بِالْعَافِيَةِ, the Prophet said in this dua. Beautify me, O Allah, with good health. Or actually, afiyah means overall well-being. You know, like, okay, I'm sorry you don't have a Muslim chaplain at Cambridge University, but I'm available if any one of you needs any help on that segment, chaplaincy side of it, pastoral support or skills. And I've helped a few of you, but I feel sometimes maybe I should have done better. So basically, good health, good diet. The Quran again talks about it. Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Eat and drink, don't over-exaggerate. Yeah, don't overeat, basically. Simple notion, which is golden rule. Do not overeat. Don't eat unhealthy things. Look after your health. Yes, I'll give you an example how you can get it wrong. You think you're too smart. Alhamdulillah, you think you're a genius. Let's say you are. But because you think you're a genius, you want to do a degree in medicine, all right? And a year later, you also want a degree in mathematics, okay? Simultaneously. You are a fellow, full fellow at Trinity College, but you're not happy. You also want to be a full fellow at St. John's. And you are sitting exams here in the morning for medicine. In the afternoon, you're going to sit exams for master's degree in mathematics or physics. And you burn out. Why did that happen to you? Because you didn't take care of your body, of your health. In Islam, this is not allowed. You can't overdo. Yeah, you can't overdo anything. And we want to strike the balance, the golden middle, in everything we do, with studies included. So don't ever overdo yourself and stay like 7 days in a row. In fact, you won't be able to do that anyway. Biologically, you will collapse. But you might try to go 2 or 3 nights without proper sleep because you are so anxious and worried about your exams, and you just stay awake, revising. That is not appropriate, okay? Maybe you think that's the only way, but maybe it was better if you slept for a couple of hours and then you took your biology textbook and then you realized, well, it's all like sponge, yeah? It's going into my brain just like that. But I overworked myself and I was with my book, but it was basically mainly nodding, yeah? Falling asleep, slumber. So health, good health, overall well-being is very important. And on this, I will end with this note. Believe me, dear students, just reading Surah Al-Fatiha in a mug of water, or even reading Surah Al-Fatiha with a cup of tea you made for yourself to revise. Read it and blow it in. Drink that. You will have less issues with blood pressure, less headache. Your blood will flow better in your veins. All kinds of things will help you. Just Surah Al-Fatiha, right? Think then about morning and evening dhikr that you do regularly. You wake up, the first thing, your ability to speak and the ability to wake up and open your eyes and become aware, like your brain comes back on, is that you say, thank you, Allah, for this. And then in the evening, before you go to sleep again, thank you, Allah. I had a lovely day at my college. I met a couple of new guys. They're really good. I read several articles. I did well in my exam. I had a lovely lunch. Other people cooked for me. We had a nice cake at the end, where I went out with my friends to play tennis or badminton. And you thanked Allah. What is that going to do to your mental health? A huge things, and your physical health too. And then think about establishing the 5 daily prayers. If you do that, which is the best composition of prayer and recital of the Quran itself, which includes Surah Al-Fatiha. Remember, Surah Al-Fatiha has so many secrets. I can't even tell you how many. So many secrets in itself, and us being the nation of that surah, being that the opening chapter of our holy book, the perfect prayer, and us reading it mandatory every day, and gaining the benefits of it, is unparalleled. So please, my dear and respected students, brothers and sisters, always be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making you Muslims, for you being Muslims. Maybe some of you also reverted to Islam, but also be grateful for your place where you are now at Cambridge University, your position, the privilege that you enjoy at the moment. I really wanted to read, I don't know if you have ever read this little poem of Barakah Khan, who was also a student at Cambridge University. She wrote it in 2015, in a way to remember her, but it was a poem called I Thank You, Allah, when she was on her dying bed with terminal cancer. If you allow me to read some of, at least a few lines, it's like, it's not very long. On this note of gratefulness, I would like to, if not, I will end my talk here. Okay, I think Iman, you are muted. So if you, please, if you, if you know of this, you can share it. If you have a copy of it, it's like a kind request. You can send it out in an email to all members. They can all read it in their own time. But I found it very, truly amazing. And the last thing I didn't say was charity as well. I know you were all generous and charitable in Ramadan, but believe me, students, when you give £1 to the poor and needy who is selling a magazine on the streets, like Shaykh Abdul Hakim said in his, I think, Eid or Friday khutbah, can also make a big difference for your achievements, for your health, honestly, for your well-being, but also for your mental being, for your exams. So when you give in charity here and there, it can protect you from calamities. That's what the Prophet said. Giving in charity saves us from calamities, and failing an exam is a big calamity. You will all agree with that. But Cambridge students, generally speaking, they never fail in exams, but they all do very well.
Inshallah. We're more than happy to send out the poem to any members afterwards, inshallah. But I think Jazakallah khair for that really wonderful talk, and we have just a short time for some questions, so we'll try to get as many as possible done now. So the first one is, should we dedicate more or less time to worship as exams get closer? And also, how do you strike a good balance between the degree and ibadah?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, you can't overdo one or the other. The Prophet would say, like, to people who wanted to pray all the time or fast every day, don't do that. Okay, so with you, for example, when the time for exam is drawing closer, you just feel it's a natural reaction. You want to spend more of your time in revising, because before that you were still studying, you were still covering new modules. So I would say you will pray what you have to, what the Islam is asking you, the basic duties that you have, individual obligations. They don't take up so much of your time. And then you can say, if you are too stressed, for example, maybe a prayer like this, will help relieve your stress. You are studying so much, you spend 7 hours a day revising a particular module. Now headache has come to you and it's not going away. For example, the Prophet said, when that happens to somebody, like they are overstressed, he said, read those verses from the Quran which mention sajda. And after you read each one of them, go down and prostrate down. There seems to be some kind of, pain or stress that is left on the ground where we make sujood. Goes away, from our head. You might do that. It will take you 10 minutes, 11. and then go back to your studies. It will help you. This is how I want you to strike the balance between the two. Remembering your God wherever you feel pushed. And the Quran really said, when we feel there is a stress or calamity on us, yeah, we prolong our prayer, which means we are more sincere in our prayer and more focused and concentrated. So you might want to do a bit of that as well. Pray better than you used to because of the stressful times that you are in now. But on the other hand, of course, make sure you give enough time to revise your modules. Okay, I hope it helps.
The second question that we'll look at is, how do we deal with the normalization of sins around us? So one example that's been given in some others is with online exams, the possibility of cheating, for example, is major, and there's a worry of how to deal with it and how to feel like you'll fall behind when everybody else has kind of normalized this culture of fitna or sin.
Yeah, that's a really top question, I have to say. Like I said, the moral compass, the taqwa, the notion of being God conscious, like, Allah is watching you, whether the exam is, online or somebody is over your shoulder and watching you, it's irrelevant for someone who is truly pious. When this is the notion, like I said, like we are all tempted, we just want to be pushed, like I want to do so well and be first and get the prize that is available out there. I want my name to be right on the top of that list. I don't accept being second or anywhere in the middle. Those are the drives that can force someone, with shaitan's influence as well, to go on and cheat as a result of not being able to accept that I'm not going to be first this time. You know what I mean? So not being honest with yourself, cheating on your own self, actually, not cheating anyone else in the end. This is what happens, really. And the Prophet said, "Man ghashana falaysa minna." Whoever cheats on us doesn't belong to us. Like, you're not a loyal Muslim, really, if you want to cheat on a non-Muslim even. And in exams, like I said, the reason why they are exams and there are rules, principles, it's like you have signed invisible agreement that you will not cheat. Keep your promise, keep to your agreement. That's what it is. A Muslim who knows Allah is watching everything will keep up to their agreement, even if it's invisible. Assumed agreement, plagiarism. So this is one aspect of that question. The second one is, what about the boys and girls who think kissing and this and that is all fine and they can do whatever they like and watch nonsense on screen together and this and that? Yes, that is a true danger. And all this LGBT and all of that, the gender, confusion, I will call it. It's normalized, and it's becoming more and more normalized in our societies, in our time. It is a danger, I have to say. I really have to tell you, like, of all queries that I deal with, marital issues and this and that, the hardest ones that I have come across are people who call me who are confused, don't know whether they are boys or girls, and don't know their affiliations. They don't know what they are, what it is. And it's all come from the mainstream media, really, and certain legislations that have come up in recent times, legalizing same-sex marriages, giving certain rights to this and that group of people, defending this and that group of people, putting lots of money in that particular, movement or group or organization to promote and raise more and more awareness of this and that. Whereas we know Islamically, those things were, they are not acceptable to us. So I would say, like, I think Sister Iman, you wrote as well in your email nicely, really nicely. Good companionship is the answer. Like friendships, you have to be stingy on this one. Be very selective. Choose your friends carefully. Let's say, oh, but don't you know, this is the Queen's, great grandnephew or niece who is studying at me. I want to, go to Buckingham Palace through this friend of mine. Oh, don't you know the guy who is studying with me? He's a descendant of this prime minister from China or prime minister of Germany, or he's a descendant of this royal family. But this descendant of royal family, he's telling you that you should actually change your gender. And they think it's perfectly fine. And they are basically beautifying that, what we say, uncorrupt, something which is against the fitra, nature, phenomenon or tendency. They're trying to beautify to you and package it to make you think, well, it's absolutely normal. And it's all little steps, one after the other, until we lose our modesty. And then when we lost our modesty, which is very much part of our iman, as the Prophet said, yeah, a major part of our iman, then we'll do whatever we feel like. And we will also want instant gratification of our desires. So I really think that, you know, having a society like this, you know, occasional religious talks, reminders, occasional trip to the mosque, going and seeing your relatives or parents, especially, you know, being reminded a little bit more of your tradition, where you come from, especially your religious affiliation, will inshallah balance that out, and you will feel reminded of what it is that is normal and that isn't, and what it is that is pure fitra, the nature on which we were created, and Allah wants us to stay like that, and what it is being now messed up and corrupted by God knows who. Okay, I think that's really it, you know, from that question.
Before we have any more questions, I just wanted to check how much time you have. I know you do have a HIFZ class.
I do have a class. I can spare another 4 minutes if that's okay.
Another 4 minutes. Okay, then In Sha Allah we'll do maybe 2 more questions, and if there's time to end with the poem, that would be lovely as well.
Okay.
So Imam Ghazali outlines quite strict categories of what is considered beneficial, and the question is what we are studying truly beneficial?
Yes, yeah, it's a good question, I have to say. I mean, like, I like Ghazali is very special, actually. His book on knowledge, Kitab al-Ilm from his Ihya, is the hardest book of all of them all. And in the complete Ihya set, it's arguably the best book. Yes, he's very strict. I agree with that. If you understood, if you read it nicely, you will see that it's all about intention, really. Even when he talks, I know it sounds very strange and strict, but it's all about intention, to be honest with you. Why medicine is not an Islamic subject? Yes, it is, right? Biochemistry. Why is biochemistry not an Islamic subject? Yes, it is. How is it Islamic? Because you are a Muslim who is studying it, so with your intention, it will become Islamic. IVF. Yes, IVF also can become quite Islamic. If you make sure that you put out guidelines, yeah, like let's say restrictions or whatever you want to say, stipulations around something that you have devised, which is improving somebody's health or making somebody attain something in this worldly life, but you don't want to cross certain ethical boundaries, then it becomes Islamic. And I remember, for example, I studied arts. Okay, if you do philosophy or theology, you will never have any issues with, you know, science and ethics, or ethics will not become an obstacle or moral code. But any one of you who's doing science, yeah, proper, you will see, if you when you go on to do your PhD, you will have to sign an agreement to make sure, like, you're not going to endanger any kind of, you know, living species, animals, plants, or humans. So this is what I think is, like, we just need to be honest with what we are studying and declaring. If it's economics, are you really crazy in defending the principle of usury, interest? And you really think that modern economy cannot survive unless there is a fixed rate and the inflation has to go in a particular way? Yeah, of course, that kind of finance and economy to me is un-Islamic. But if you study a PhD in economy, and you're trying to point out some of the weaknesses of the current system and diffuse it with some Islamic notions, to me that again becomes quite Islamic. So it's all about our intentions, to be honest with you all. And there's always a way to tweak it around, basically to give it an Islamic dimension and not to go out of the basic, you know, we can say, like, ethics or code of ethics, which is acceptable to all, not just Muslims. And this is what you can keep in mind when you classify your study, whether it's beneficial or not. Okay, what's the other question?
This is the last one I wanted to read out. It says, no question. I just want to thank the Imam and the whole CMC team for all the CCM videos in Ramadan, especially tafsir. So you won't need to answer that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's my honor, it's my privilege. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our deeds, purify our intentions, and may He make us help one another. As long as we help one another and we are there for one another, we can actually hope for a better and brighter future. So I'm very proud, alhamdulillah, of you all. I wish you all the very best with your coming exams and the rest of your degrees and your future. And I look forward, inshallah ta'ala, to welcoming you all actually in the mosque in person. Maybe next talk, we can organize it here on the premise. You can all come in the teaching room or the cafeteria, and we can have a talk and some refreshments afterwards as well.
Thank you. I pray this session has been a source of comfort and guidance. And we know how busy you are, so we do appreciate you talking to us today. We'll have a short dua. I'm not sure if there's time to share the poem, but if we don't get a time to say it out loud, then we're more than happy to share it. So may Allah grant us beneficial knowledge, protect us from regret, enable us to be grateful and use our privilege for goodness. May He make us an exemplary nation, a lettered ummah, and equip us with the knowledge and skills to benefit both ourselves and our communities. Ameen.
Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. If you allow me just to end with this dua, then the hadith I read. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز وغفار اللهم ربنا أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا رحمن يا رحيم رب زدنا علما اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وقلبا خاشعا يا رب العالمين وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا من فضلك وجودك وكرمك علما وتعليما يا أرحم الراحمين سبحانك اللهم نستغفرك ونتوب إليك ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا بارك الله فيكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I wish you all the best.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.